Prime Minister Modi, while at the BRICS Summit, speaking at the BRICS Summit, he has called for sanctions against terrorists. The Prime Minister has told the BRICS leaders that condemning terrorism is not just a convenience, not just a matter of convenience. Prime Minister Modi highlighted the Pahalgam attack. He highlighted the terrorist attack that have been taking place in India, especially the state-sponsored terrorism by Pakistan. He has said that Pahalgam attack was a blow on humanity. So a significant statement there coming from the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, at the BRICS Summit, where he has called for sanctions against terrorists, and not just terrorists, but terrorist states as well. The Prime Minister highlighted the fact that BRICS leaders condemning terrorism, for them it's not just a convenience, shouldn't just be a matter of convenience. He goes on to say that the Pahalgam attack was a blow on humanity. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in fact, thanked all the nations that stood with India. He, in fact, goes on to say that the victims and supporters of terrorism aren't the same. He was referring to India and the state-sponsored terrorism by Pakistan, where he said that the victims and supporters of terrorism aren't the same and they should not be equated. Remember, at the SEO summit in China, the Raksha Mantri, the Defense Minister, Rajnath Singh, he had declined to sign that document where the Pahalgam terror attack wasn't given a mention. The Prime Minister at the BRICS Summit 2025, he has now gone on to say that silent support of terror is unacceptable. The Prime Minister says that there should be no difference between words and actions on terror. This is Prime Minister Modi's direct remarks post the Pahalgam attack, in which 26 people lost their lives in that brutal attack on humanity in India. The Prime Minister has asked the nations to be serious in the fight against terror. The Prime Minister, remember, was addressing the leaders at the BRICS Summit in Rio. So the Prime Minister has called for sanctions against terrorists. He told the BRICS leaders that condemning terrorism is not just a matter of convenience. He goes on to say that Pahalgam attack was a blow on humanity. In fact, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us to get us more on this. Ghazali, these are significant, significant and important statements that the Prime Minister has made at the BRICS Summit. Take us through it.
Yeah, first of all, Prime Minister spoke on two issues, one about Pahalgam terror attack, and also took a kind of message to all the partner countries in BRICS that words and actions should match. He goes on to say that nobody should go soft on terrorism, and before or after the attack, no should look for that who is the perpetrator and who is the victim. Because that is when the Prime Minister spoke about sanctioning on terrorism, not without taking the name of Pakistan. While in obvious reference, while talking about the Pahalgam terror attack, Prime Minister spoke about that none of those countries should be quiet on it, should go soft on terrorism, and terrorists must pay, whether it's a state-backed terrorism or it's a lone wolf group. So in an apparent hint towards Pakistan, very strong comments by Prime Minister when it comes to sanctioning. For the first time, perhaps he has spoken about that how the countries who have friendly relations with Pakistan should also do some course correction when it comes to their relations with Pakistan. Because in words, they did condemn Pahalgam terror attack, but they continue to have relations with Pakistan. And many of these member states have also been pushing or giving aid to Pakistan, which eventually Pakistan uses to push terror into Indian territory.
And this call to all the nations for condemning the terror attacks in India, that is also quite significant because there have been situations where a lot of countries, they have tried to stay neutral. They don't want to disturb the established order, as a lot of people might say. And that is also quite significant because the Prime Minister goes to a summit, the BRICS Summit, and very categorically and clearly sends out this message that, look, India, all these nations, it shouldn't just be lip service. There should be concrete actions, and all these nations who have been condemning the attack, they should come out openly and say that, look, terrorism has no place in humanity, and all these attacks against India, or for that matter, any such terrorist attack, has absolutely no place in this in the world today.
See, Osama, two significant points. One, the Prime Minister being the voice of the global South, because you have got China, you have got Russia representatives all there, you have got new members like UAE is there, Iran is there. And amid all this, Prime Minister sending out two messages, not just on terrorism, but he also touched upon the issue of conflict. But conflict should not be an excuse to go soft on terror. Prime Minister spoke about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as well. Though India maintains very good relations with Israel and also continues to push for humanitarian aid into Gaza. But when it comes to terror, Prime Minister used very hard, very tough words, asking the member nations to not differentiate between who the perpetrator is and not evaluate the entire terror incidents from the prism of their diplomatic relations with that state. Rather, should be very tough and match their words when it comes to action.
In fact, Vishnu Shomonso joins us to get us more on this. Vishnu's very strong statements coming from the Prime Minister.
In fact, these are the strongest statements that I've heard the Prime Minister make post-Pahalgam, particularly to the international community. And what the Prime Minister has called for is sanctions against terrorists. He's told BRICS leaders, and he's speaking, remember, at the BRICS Summit in Rio in Brazil. He's told BRICS leaders that condemning terrorism is not just a convenience, that this is something which is at the core of what all leaders must do. He said that the attack in Pahalgam, in which 26 civilians were killed, wasn't just an attack on India, it was a blow on humanity. He said that this was an attack on the soul, identity and dignity of India. He spanked nations which have stood by India. He said that victims and supporters of terrorism aren't the same. This is an absolutely key point that the Prime Minister has made, because there is this effort to sort of soft pedal the impact of this terror strike on India among some nations, and therefore India wants a more direct sort of statement by international leaders against Pakistan. While the Prime Minister didn't, to the best of our knowledge, name Pakistan directly, he was quite clearly referring to Pakistan and saying that victims and supporters of terrorism are not the same. He said that any international silence on terrorism or the support for terror was unacceptable to India, that there should be no difference between words and action on terror. These are the Prime Minister's most direct remarks post-Pahalgam, and he's asking nations to be very serious in the fight against terrorism. This is very, very important in the context of what India has been trying to achieve over a period of time, whether it's Rajnath Singh, the Defense Minister, speaking to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, where he went to the extent of saying that India reserves the right to take even preemptive actions if necessary if there is a threat of terrorism from Pakistan. It extends to what the External Affairs Minister, who's been in the United States for the last few days, has had to say when he's sort of spoken to his American counterpart, saying that, look, there needs to be consistency and acceptance of what India is trying to say in all of this. Remember, Op Sindoor itself, while the military action is over or appears to be over at this present juncture, the Op Sindoor itself has not been called off by the government. India remains on alert when it comes to the potential of a terror threat. And therefore, these remarks made to BRICS, which is an important international gathering, which India is a key part of, are absolutely critical.
Vishnu, what sort of reactions can we now expect, especially from the BRICS nation? Will they publicly endorse what Prime Minister Modi has said as far as condemning the Pahalgam terror attack is concerned, and especially China and Russia?
I think India is very clear that we expect an international condemnation of Pakistan as a state sponsor of terrorism, with the naming of Pakistan by name, not broader statements which condemn terrorism, which are just political statements which are made by countries. We want Pakistan to be identified as a state sponsor of terrorism, as a global hub of terrorism. Every country, so many countries across the world have been impacted by terrorism, whether it's 9/11 in America or 26/11 over here in India. Osama bin Laden was hiding in Pakistan when he was tracked down and eliminated by U.S. forces. There have been attacks on India for decades. Pahalgam was one of the most vicious attacks at a time when we had the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance visiting India. You saw 26 people being eliminated by terrorists in execution style in a place which was, a haven for tourists. So India wants much more direct statements. And then India is absolutely clear, and this is what our government believes, that either you support us in this fight against terrorism, or India, reserves the right, which we do in any case, in taking whatever preemptive action is required. But India wants Pakistan to be named by, directly, and whether that has taken place enough in the international community is something that is a larger debate.
Vishnu, one such statement by the Prime Minister stands out where he says that this is an attack on the soul and identity of India. What message is India sending to the global community by drawing a direct link between terrorism and national identity here?
So that's very important to some. And I think beyond that statement, he also said that this was, and this is something which wasn't just about India, but it was a blot on humanity. It was a blot on humanity which impacts human beings, civilizations, nations, the idea of freedom, the idea of rights anywhere across the world. So what exactly are we looking at? Why isn't there a lot more direct condemnation of Pakistan, which is, without a doubt, a state sponsor of terrorism? And so therefore, in this very important grouping, which includes Brazil, India, Russia, and China, and South Africa, India wants statements which are much more direct. Now remember, in the BRICS grouping itself, there is China. China, the Deputy Chief of Army Staff just 2 days ago, he made an incredible statement when he said that China was providing real-time intelligence information to Pakistan and was using Pakistan as a laboratory to test its military weapons during the Op Sindoor conflict. This statement being made by India's Prime Minister in an international gathering which includes China is very important. China's leaders will take note of this, but one shouldn't expect anything other than placatory statements or an international condemnation or of terrorism. What we seek over here is a much more direct, targeted response to Pakistan itself. Naming Pakistan, whether that actually takes place not just by China, which is entirely unlikely, but by the other nations is something that we're going to have to wait and see. But India is pushing very hard for this.